Welcome to Phazon Labs, powered by World 1-1. We're coming at you live from Studio SR388, and we're sponsored by Phazon Flakes, a radioactively delicious part of your mutagenic breakfast. I am, as always, your host, Larry the Bearded Wonder. Joining me this week is my co-pilot and partner in crime, Isabel the Baby Brandman.
Hello.
And we are back this week. We are diverging slightly from the usual format, but not too drastically, because Isabel wants to bring up an often divisive topic for this week's episode. So why don't you go ahead and toss it out there?
Yeah, so I recently replayed Super Metroid on the Nintendo Switch Online service, and as always, it's a fantastic game. Made much more wonderful with the save states and rewind button, but it got me thinking what it would be like to have a remake of Super Metroid. And it's kind of like a controversial topic because people consider it a masterpiece and like one of the most perfect games ever made. And I see where they're coming from. So I think that for this episode, we would have like kind of three questions. Is that, should Super Metroid have a remake? Will Super Metroid have a remake? And if they do make a Super Metroid remake, what are some things that we would like to see kept, and what are some things that we would like to see changed? So yeah.
I want your answer to that first question first, because I know what mine are, and I know it will lead down a short path, but I want to hear yours.
So I'm thinking, like, it's so weird because I did not start with Super Metroid. I started with Samus Returns, and so there's like lots of things that Samus Returns and like the later games have improved upon Super. But there are so many things that Super has that aren't in the later games as well, like the flexibility of being able to, kind of like sequence break and that kind of stuff. So I feel like as though it's kind of weird. The fact that with Dread coming out, they are referencing like Super Metroid style like speedrunning. It makes me feel as though if they do a remake, then it would be more faithful to that. And so I feel like as though it almost should be remade, but in an HD 2D style, if that makes sense. And I don't know if you've heard of that. It's like this kind of style like that Octopath Traveler has, or they're making a new Dragon Quest 3 game based on the HD 2D. So you keep the sprite work and that kind of stuff. They just like update some of the menus, that kind of thing like that. So that's how I would like to see it. Yeah, that's how I would like to see a Super Metroid remake, would be in the HD 2D style. So yeah.
I could see that. That's probably the closest thing to acceptable for me in terms of should there be a remake, because honestly, my very knee-jerk reaction has always been, no, don't you dare touch it. Like, just leave well enough alone, thank you.
Yeah, it's so strange though, because like there's like so many things that the later games have built upon it that it almost feels like as though by like constantly like having this one game that we hold up, and then like the other games are almost or is just as good, it almost feels like as though we aren't quite allowing the series to move forward, if that makes sense. Or am I projecting here?
I, you know what? I'm gonna be the stubborn old man here and be like, no, I don't think this needs to be redone for the series to move forward. For the series to move forward, as far as I see, the series just moves forward, which is what it's doing. We're getting Dread finally. That is actual forward movement, and I can get behind that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
you know, you don't need to redo. Like honestly, it's not aged poorly like the NES game did, or Return of Samus on the Game Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Those are ones that showed their age in not great ways, if we're being honest here.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a result, you know, those remakes went a long ways towards making those stories much more accessible and playable. Super Metroid, at least for my money, doesn't really fundamentally have anything wrong with it that needs fixing or that needs a remake. It just doesn't. And again, maybe that's just, you know, my stubborn old man self speaking here, but you know, you're here, everyone's here for opinions, and so here's mine. But in any case, no, I feel like it should not be touched. I don't like the thought. And if it were to be, then honestly, I think the best thing that could possibly come of that would be, like you said, if it's, you know, if they do, you know, an HD 2D remake, or maybe if they were to, I won't say redo the gameplay or the feel, but if it were to be redone just visually with like a super high-res detailed version with a much more realistic aesthetic, or maybe even like Dread's visual style, I'm okay with that. But like, don't touch the foundation, don't touch the gameplay for me. That would upset me, because honestly, that's one of my biggest critiques and issues with like Zero Mission and Samus Returns. Is I'm that weirdo that I like the classic heavy tank feel Samus. Like, I like when it feels like she has weight to her. Now, for Fusion, when that change came about, that made sense, you know? The big, heavy, bulky armor was gone. It makes sense that she's not as bogged down, that she's quicker and snappier. But then when you retroactively apply that to previous games where that's not the case, don't get me wrong, it's fun to play, but in context of the story, it feels wrong, and it bugs me. You know, I liked that more slow, deliberate feel to her movement, and God bless, the gameplay in Super, for my money, is immaculate.
Even the select button to switch items.
Yep, because it's not really even an issue. I can reassign that button all I want all day long. I stick that up on my X button, is where I keep that. And then I'll reassign the select button to be my item cancel.
Interesting. Yeah, because I guess if we skip ahead, that's one of the things that I really would like more games in Nintendo's library to do, not just Metroid, would be to have Super Metroid style button mapping. Because that is just like perfect, because I like to map my jump button to B and my shoot button to Y. So it's you know it, and I don't know why Nintendo doesn't do this with like other games, and it's kind of a shame.
Technically, you can do it with all games on the Switch now.
Yeah.
Because you've got
Yeah.
system level button mapping.
Yeah. But I would like to do it to each individual game, you know, and
I get that.
because like it just would be better if you're playing one game that has one like completely different genre, and then you have to go to the system settings, change it, then you can start another game kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
but
No, I feel you. Don't get me wrong. It's a little tedious in its implementation if you're, using it for like one game at a time kind of thing. But at least it exists, and it lets you save multiple button setting profiles too. So
mhm.
it's not all
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, but it's not as nice as how Super does it, I guess, is what I'm
No, it's
saying.
not.
So, and I would like to see that implemented more in Metroid games and Zelda and Animal Crossing even, whatever. So it's just something that I would like to see that just is not really a thing, and it makes me sad.
No, I agree. It would serve it well. It would.
Mhm.
Um,
So
you know what? I'll concede another point or two here on remaking Super. I will say I wouldn't mind seeing a more detailed map.
mhm. Mhm.
I'm not gonna lie. There's a couple games that have kind of in the genre that have kind of spoiled me on maps,
Mhm.
and yeah, there's a few that's one thing that I wouldn't mind seeing tweaked and adjusted. Would be a fresh update to the map, put some more
Mhm.
detail in there. 'Cause, I mean, you could definitely do more with it in terms of delivering detail
Mhm.
now than you could before.
Mhm.
So I think
Yeah.
that could and would go a long ways.
Even just like the simple addition of like adding doors to it would make it
Right.
so much more, you know, clear than what they have now. I mean, I it would be nice to have like icons and like things that you could move around and stuff, and be able to like mark a position or whatever. But, I think if we just keep it simple and just say, just mark where doors are, that kind of thing would be really nice. So,
I can
but
get behind that.
yeah. And then going back to what you were saying about the physics of the game, I don't mind the floatiness. It's just the world design is very cramped. So, like, whenever I play, I get the high jump boots, and then I end up, like, smashing Samus against, like, every ceiling and ledge and against spikes and stuff like that because there's just not really. It's just so cramped in Super Metroid in some rooms. So, I feel like as though it would be nice to have some more space, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I think you and I have a very different opinion on that. Like, I kind of get where you're coming from, but I don't think it ever felt like full blown claustrophobic cramped. I felt like it was always pretty much just the right size.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. Like, there are like a couple rooms that are like trying to like the quicksand rooms in Meridia. There's one room in Brinstar that has like those, like eating flower things with the teeth and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That when you try to get through so those are the ones that I'm thinking of. So it's not like the whole game. It's just like several rooms that you have to traverse through. Like several times if you're, like going through a playthrough, depending on you know, like how many times you played it or you're speedrunning it or whatever, that can really slow you down. And can even lead to some unnecessary deaths if you're not careful. So, but yeah, that's kind of just like a very small nitpick, though, I guess, because like I don't mind the floatiness. It's just that there are just some rooms that are just like very, very annoying when it comes to that.
I suppose I could see your take on that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, by the same token, though, I kind of feel like those are things that make it feel purposeful when you're going not just through the rooms, but through the world as well, where it's like, okay, you know what? I know that these things are going to be in this room and trying to get in my way. So I'm going to be mindful of the route that I am taking because of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But maybe that's just me.
Yeah. It's also because, like, you know, trying to replay it is finding the fastest road, and those are the ones that are fast, and then I get stuck in Meridia because Meridia is Meridia. So, but let me get you the biggest flaw in Super Metroid.
All right, I'm ready.
And that is the door in Turian, the one that locks behind you that you can't get out of until you defeat Mother Brain. That is the biggest flaw in Super Metroid. Because once you get through there, can't get back out. If you're stuck on Mother Brain, sorry. If you know, want to get some more stuff, you know, nope. You know, like in Zero Mission, you can break the glass from the ship, and you can go back and that kind of thing. So, and I feel like as though that was implemented much better than in Super Metroid. So I feel like that's the most glaring flaw that could be addressed in a remake.
I'll give you that, which actually, now that you mention it, it's almost, they almost took a step backwards in Super Metroid in that regard, because if you play Metroid 2 on the original Game Boy, there's actually a way for you to cut out of the Queen fight at the end if you're stuck and you're struggling. They left an escape hatch essentially at the bottom of the room there. So the fact that they lock you in, so no, I'll give you that, because honestly, that was a complaint I had with a couple of games over the last couple of years. Kunai was a particularly egregious offender on that subject. They lock you into the end game run with no warning until it's too fucking late. And that one kind of pissed me off. The rest of that game is darling, though. Wonderful. What else? Bugger. There was another one that was just in my head, and it's escaped me. But yeah, no, Super Metroid does that too, and I wouldn't mind. Oh, Ori! Ori in the Blind Forest does that, where it locks you in and makes it so that there are areas that you can't revisit. So if you missed items in those areas, you can't go back to 100% it.
Yeah. I was thinking of like Golden Sun as well. Like those games, like you go through an area and then you aren't allowed to go back, which is kind of a shame if you're trying to get all the genie. So that one is also... Those ones could also use, ports or remakes, speaking of. So
same thing with BioShock 2.
Yeah.
They did that. That bugged me.
So, now that we've talked about, like, should Super Metroid have a remake, do you think that Nintendo would ever make a Super Metroid remake?
Honestly, no. I can't see them doing it. It just... I don't think it's anywhere on their slate, and I can't see them putting into it.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and I was comparing it to Link to the Past, which also is SNES game, also, highly regarded, one of the best of its generation. People consider that one a masterpiece.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that one actually kind of had a sort of remake, sort of sequel in Link Between Worlds.
Link Between Worlds is only a sequel. It is not a remake.
I know, it's weird. But there are so many shout outs and callbacks to Link to the Past that it almost kind of feels like a remake. I mean, I know that it's called a sequel in Japan, but it's almost like the world map of the overworld is almost one for one. So
Well, yeah, but it also makes sense given that it, fundamentally takes place directly after Link to the Past. So that's not that unreasonable. And frankly, what they did is they used that same world map so that you have an inherent sense of familiarity with it without, and then introduced new ways to explore, get around that map, and new things to do in it, so that it's not just a remake, it is a sequel. They put a whole fresh story in it.
Yeah, so that one is kind of the one I was thinking of that could compare the most to Super. But it's so there is sort of precedent, and how I feel they would approach it is that they wouldn't necessarily do, I think you're right, is that they wouldn't necessarily do a carbon copy remake. I think they would definitely do something different with it. But I think you're right. They've re-released Super on pretty much every console since the Wii, via virtual console or online service, and I think they're more
Wii U, 3DS, Switch. Yeah.
So I think they're more concerned about moving the series forward, but
I would certainly hope so.
Yeah, the Sakamoto, Tanabe, and team, I think they know that it's. I think you're right that any flaws that Super has are minimal enough that it doesn't detract from it being a great game. So that's probably why they don't think it needs to be remade. Or if they would remake it, they would make it different enough, a la Link Between Worlds. So, but because Zelda is much more kind of loosey-goosey with its story, I feel it would be kind of a little more harder to sell that in the Metroid story. So
yeah, there's a lot more disjointed continuity with Zelda.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So, I mean, I feel as though I'm sort of in two minds. I feel as though Super would be perfect to have a minimalist remake. But at the same time, I know that it's not going to really be something that is, what's the word? Needed, I think, because it's a good game. So I feel as though it's almost superfluous. Would I like it? It depends. I mean, I would like some small changes. I know there have been some hacks and stuff that have made the movement better. And I think I would a remake, if they ever do it, to be more along those lines than anything substantial. So,
All right. So here's my idea.
mm-hmm.
Instead of remaking this, what they do is they get together a collection of the best, like, I don't know, 3 to 6 ROM hacks that people have done of Super Metroid.
Mm-hmm.
Pay them for their work, take them in, put a little spit shine polish on it, and, you know, release that collection together as the, I don't know,
The Super Metroid Anniversary Collection or something like that.
yeah, something along those lines. I mean, you find a good title for that collection.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd get behind that. Be like, hey, you know, the Super Metroid revamps.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, there's definitely potential there. Because I know people love doing like the randomizers of Super Metroid. So, I mean, I would definitely get behind that. So
see, that's something that would be fun if they did a remake. If they, you know, packed in. That's one of those little quality of life features, like, you know, pack in a randomizer option.
mm-hmm.
That'd be neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
I feel like that definitely is something that would spice up the gameplay. So yeah, no, I would definitely get behind that if they would do that, because they have had some really good ROM hacks that I can think of off the top of my head. I can't think of their names, but I know that there's one that remade Zero Mission in Super Metroid, like nearly one for
did
one.
it?
Yeah, nearly one for one.
I have not seen this.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was like Metroid Zero Mission Super Metroid, which is kind of a mouthful of a title. But
Right.
but I appreciate the commitment to the bit. So yeah, like, and I feel like as though there's one that pretty much remade 2, sort of. But yeah, no, I definitely could get behind this, 100%. So, but
I think the biggest issue that's going to stop this from ever happening is really just the fact that there's not enough that's egregiously poorly aged to make it merit doing this. And so as a result, it's just not gonna happen. Which is not to say that there aren't, you know, some neat quality of life things that I would enjoy in a re-release. And maybe that's just what they need to do is, you know, wait for Super's, you know, next big anniversary year, and pack it up on a physical cartridge and ship it out with some quality of life tweaks and call it a day.
Yeah, I would love that. Actually, you know what I would really love? I would love if they did like some sort of collection of like Super Fusion and Zero Mission and Samus Returns, but pack them all together. Yeah.
I'm almost with you there. I honestly want a collection, like an anthology collection of all the 2D games. Like 1 through 4, including all the remakes.
Yeah.
And if you do that, that's where you slip in like those little quality of life adjustments to Super. I think that would be the place to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm trying to think of like, because there was the recent Fire Emblem like translation that they released and then got rid of for some reason. So that one they added some quality of life changes too. Like you could speed up like battle animations and that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
there's definitely precedence to it. So
there's precedence and there's a place for it. It's just, you know, an issue of, is there enough to do that merits doing it? I think that's where it walks that real fine line, honestly.
And also, like, does the market want it? I think, which is where
that's another big question.
Which is where I think like Dread comes in. Like if Dread sells really well, which I really hope it does, then like I think there's potential for more games in the series, more spin-offs, potentially a Super Metroid remake. So that's my thoughts right there, is that they would consider it if Dread sells really well. And I can only hope and pray to the Chozo spirits that it does. So
I suppose that falls in the category of, maybe one day we'll see.
But so yeah, those are my thoughts on should, will, and if Super has a remake, what would be changed. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, I think you've at least partially moved me on the subject. I can see more merit in it now than I probably would have assumed to have prior. So I'll give you that. But I'm not as hard and fast saying no, but I still have some distinct hesitancy because my gut says if they remake this, they won't know when to leave well enough alone.
Yeah, that's always the hard part. But considering the job that they did with like Zero Mission, I have hopes if this ever happens. So
yeah, but Zero Mission didn't really have a lot left in it that shouldn't have been touched in some way. Super, because Nestroid just didn't age well versus Super, which has aged exceptionally well. I think that's the big difference.
That's true.
So.
That's definitely true. I will give that to you. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, I vote we've hit a good stopping point for the evening. I think we've finally reached a save point. So let's save our game here, and we'll pick it up again next week. And I'm going to take this moment to say thank you to everybody that tuned in and listened. Thank you to my partner in crime, Isabel. And I think that about covers it. You got anything?
Then. No, I think I am good for the evening.
Groovy. Well, in that case, thank you from all of us here at Phazon Labs and World 1-1 Network. And we'll see you all next mission. Peace!